Hey guys, tonight we're heading into a world of sound and no textbooks, no boring drills, just the hum of life as it happens. Picture this, it's early morning, and you're stepping into a bustling street market. The air smells like fresh bread and overripe bananas, the kind that sticks to your shoes if you're not careful. You dodge a kid on a scooter, almost trip over a crate of limes, and someone behind you shouts, "Fresh strawberries, 2 for 1. Just today." Welcome to English, unscripted and alive. You're not in a classroom now, you're in the thick of conversation, thick accents, fast speech, overlapping voices, and moments when your brain goes, "No, what did they just say?" That's okay. You're here to soak it in, and trust me, if you can handle a local market, you can handle anything. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. I want to know who's listening with me in this little corner of the night. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You weave through the market slowly. On the left, two women are arguing over mangoes. These are clearly from yesterday. "Lady, you think I'd sell yesterday's fruit? I'm not my cousin, alright?" Just like that, you're hearing the cadence of native speech, a intonation rising with sarcasm, emphasis dropping with frustration. You pick up vocabulary in context, clearly, sell, yesterday's, cousin, and the tone, pure attitude with a dash of family rivalry. You almost want to step in and buy something just to break the tension. A vendor calls out to you next, "Hey you. Yes you. You like papaya? First time here? Where you from?" This is unfiltered street English. No grammar check, no subjunctive mood, just curiosity, hospitality, and an easy rhythm. Notice how he stacks 3 questions with no pause. Native speakers do that a lot, especially when they're trying to get your attention or sell you something. You nod politely, and before you can answer, he hands you a slice. "Taste sweet, right? Like sugar from the tree." Similes in action. You're not reading about figurative language, you're chewing it. Real-life English tastes sticky and juicy. Further down, you spot a stand that says artisanal orange juice, a fresh squeezed. The woman running the stall is explaining something to a customer. No sugar added. The oranges are Valencia, they're naturally sweet. Imported. Of course, these aren't your basic navel oranges. Now you're getting flavor and facts. Did you catch the tone shift? Imported. Of course, that tiny phrase oozes pride. She knows her product, and she wants you to know it too. She even uses the word Valencia, a specific variety. Boom, a vocabulary upgrade. Also, fun fact, oranges didn't even originate in Valencia. Historians still argue whether the best citrus fruits came from China, India, or some ancient Mediterranean grove. But don't mention that here she looks like she'd fight you for even suggesting it. Meanwhile, on your right, a small group of teens are filming a TikTok dance beside a juice stand. Bro, don't forget the left stipino, your other left. This is for my mom's account. She needs followers, dude. And there it is, a language evolution in real time. The word bro used non-literally, your other left as a joke, and even followers used in that hyper-digital context. 10 years ago, you might have thought going viral meant you needed antibiotics. You paused near a spice vendor who's giving a tiny lecture to a couple. "This onia paprika, but sweet, not spicy. These a chili." Big difference. Westerners always confuse them. "OF, that's a little jab, right? But it's valuable." There's a tone of "you should know this," which helps you learn fast. Also, paprika comes from a Hungarian word, and there's still a debate over whether it was Spain or Hungary that made it popular in Europe. Like so many words in English, spices have traveled more than most of us. You finally reach the end of the market and sit on a bench beside an older man selling newspapers. He doesn't talk much, just reads the headlines aloud to himself. Fuel prices rise again. Classic. Mayor caught napping during city council. What else is new? Notice that last bit? Sarcasm is soft and subtle. What else is new means of course nothing surprising here. These phrases are gold when you're learning how people really talk, not just how they write. And before you leave, Let's toss in a tiny piece of trivia. Did you know ancient Greek markets were so loud that philosophers like Socrates would complain publicly about too many words in the air? Some even claim the noise could confuse your soul. Imagine being so overwhelmed by gossip that your spirit needs a nap. So now, as you wander out of this lively, chaotic, word-filled street, think of how much English just soaked into you: accents, sarcasm, casual phrases, questions, comparisons, idioms, slang, and even historical shade. You didn't study Ida, you lived it. And no quiz can test that kind of learning. You descend into the subway station and are hit by that unmistakable blend of metallic rails, warm air, and faint old pizza. The escalator hums beneath your feet, carrying you deeper underground as an electronic voice barks overhead. Next train arriving in a broken bar, 2 minutes. Please stand clear of the yellow line. That robotic announcer voice, you'll hear it everywhere in English-speaking cities. It's fast, flat, and no one ever listens until they hear the words delay or emergency. But you're listening. You're tuned into how this city talks, even when it's mumbling through a loudspeaker. There's a woman behind you muttering into her phone. No, I'm already late as Central's packed. Yeah. Again. Don't even start, okay? You catch her frustration in the rhythm of her speech. No complete sentences, no time for grammar, just pure tone. Real English under pressure. She drops verbs like they're optional, and in casual conversation, they often are. Also, don't even start is code for I know I messed up but I'm not taking blame right now. You pass a wall plastered with colorful ads. One reads, "Craving something cheesy? Try Crusto's new Mac Queso." Wordplay alert. Cheesy here has a double meaning: the literal cheese in food, and the slang for something corny or over the top. Ads love this stuff. The joke isn't brilliant, but it's trying, like a dad in a pun competition. Speaking of which, did you know early 20th century subway ads in New York often featured rhyming poems? One ad for toothpaste ended with, "Brush your teeth with shining Gracia, don't scare dates with your ghost white face." The train finally arrives. Doors open with that signature ding-ding. You step in and grab a pole. A teenager across from you is narrating his day into his phone camera. "Yo, what's up guys? So I missed the bus again because, I was vibing too hard to my playlist. That's on me. But now I'm on the train, and we're chill." The vibing too hard line makes you smirk. That phrase is modern and slippery, a part music reference, part excuse, part humble brag. It's the kind of phrase that confuses textbooks. And that's on me? That's informal ownership. He's not Mada, just casually admitting his own nonsense. Above him, the route map stretches like a multicolored puzzle. You try to follow the stops, but the logic is baffling. You're not alone. Even native speakers find subway maps confusing. Fun fact, the London Underground map you might have seen, it's famous for being beautiful, a broken bar, and geographically inaccurate. Historians still argue whether Harry Beck, the guy who designed it in 1931, was a genius of clarity or a liar with colored pencils. Either way, subway maps now favor simplicity over realism. That's why some stops look closey but are actually a mile apart. The conductor mumbles something from the front of the train. "This train will be skipping Lex and 3rd due to track work. Thank you for your patience." That sentence is a gem. Skipping in this context means not stopping, totally different from jumping or hopping. Due to track work is a euphemism that covers a multitude of sins: broken rails, missing staff, or just someone taking too long with a sandwich. And thank you for your patience. That's universal English for we know you're not patient, but we're trying to sound professional. Two older men near you are deep in discussion. "Back in my day, you didn't need apps to get around. You just knew it. Or you got lost. Bill, be honest." You catch the tension in the teasing. Be honest is often less about truth and more about poking some ironia, usually with love. Also, when someone says "back in my day," get ready for nostalgia or exaggeration, or both. Suddenly, there's a lurch. The lights flicker. A recorded voice says, "We are being held momentarily by the train's dispatcher. We'll be moving shortly." Classic delay phrase. Momentarily sounds short, but sometimes it means just long enough to rethink all your life choices. Subways everywhere use vague language to keep panic at bay. In fact, in Boston in the 1800s, delays were blamed on ghosts in the tunnels. That's not even a joke. People seriously believed old spirits caused accidents underground. The train jerks forward again, and a woman nearby sighs. Ugh. At this rate, I'm gonna walk faster than this thing. That's one of those complain disguised as joke comments. Note the phrasing. At this rate implies continuation. Gonna is a clipped version of going to. You'll hear it constantly in casual speech. And the phrase walk faster than this thing? Not literally, it's a dramatized way of saying we're crawling. As you near your stop, a pre-recorded voice rings out. Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Ah, the iconic mind the gap. If you've ever been to London, that phrase is practically their version of a national anthem. But here, it's more than just safe at ya, it's part of the soundscape. Little warnings like this become part of how cities speak. You step off the train, the crowd surges, and you realize you've just listened to 10 different people, each with their own tone, vocabulary, and many stories. You didn't memorize lists or rehearse flashcards. You absorbed English by riding life underground. And that subway, it's kind of like language itself, messy, overlapping, unpredictable, and sometimes completely off schedule. But if you pay attention, even in the chaos, you'll always find your stop. The bell above the door jingles just as you step inside. Warm light washes over tile floors, and the scent of espresso punches you right in the sinuses. It's that earthy, slightly bitter smell that says, wake up, or else. You shuffle toward the counter, scanning the menu overhead. Half the items look like spell incantations: flat white, oat milk cortado, nitro cold brew. Honestly, you just want coffee. Just a broken bar coffee. Behind the counter, two baristas are mid-conversation, and you can't help but listen. He cancelled again? Yeah, said he had food poisoning. For the third time. Girl, you're dating a ghost with IBS. Ouch. That's raw, but funny. Food poisoning is the excuse equivalent of a get-out-of-jail-free card. And the ghost with IBS joke? Pure Gen Z. They're not just slinging espresso, they're firing zingers. That's the beauty of English in coffee shops. It's casual, sharp, and full of unfiltered personality. You order a latte, cautiously pronouncing it like latte instead of latte. The barista nods. Victory. They don't correct you. You live to sip another day. You take a seat by the window. Outside, people rush by. But inside it's chill. A couple's arguing softly at the table next to yours. You said you were over it. I was over it. Until you brought it up again. Emotions wrapped in grammar gymnastics. The past tense becomes present. Was still feels real. This is English when it's doing psychological warfare. No textbooks can prep you for how layered 4 words can be. I was over it. You stir your coffee, trying to process the emotional fallout next door. When your eye catches a flyer near the barista stand, Barista Poetry Slam, a Friday night a theme, bitterness. Oh, how very on brand. Did you know that the word espresso doesn't mean fast in Italian, even though we treat it like it does? It actually comes from the term caffè tilde diéresis espresso, which means pressed out coffee. So technically, it's about pressure, not speed. Historians still argue whether the modern espresso machine was invented by Angelo Moriendo in 1884 or whether his design was just a fancy kettle with delusions of grandeur. Either way, caffeine's been caffeinating English learners for over a century. Back behind the counter, the baristas are still going. If he texts you hey at 2 a.m. again, block him. He's just emotionally constipated. Girl. Number. He's the bathroom with the out-of-order sign. Metaphors. Glorious, tragic, hilarious metaphors. Emotionally constipated? That's not in your grammar workbook. It means he can't express feelings. And out of order is the ultimate rejection. He's broken, and not fixable anytime soon. At that moment, a delivery guy walks in. Got 2 crates for Crustos. Where's the back door? The barista points vaguely with her chin. That's a whole sentence in body language. In English-speaking cultures, we sometimes replace full speech with gestures. A chin nod, a shoulder shrug. It's all part of the unspoken script. As the door swings shut behind him, The barista sighs. Why do all the hot delivery guys smell like cardboard and regret? English can be painfully poetic when it's not even trying. You file away that line for later. Cardboard and regret. Definitely not on Duolingo. You sip your latte, which is slowly turning cold, but the flavor's still there. It's like English itself is sometimes lukewarm, but always complex. You notice how people don't speak in complete sentences here. They start halfway through thoughts, trail off, or answer questions with one-word grunts. Yet somehow, you understand them. That's the magic, communication without perfection. Suddenly, a woman behind you calls out, "Hey, is this seat taken?" "Nope, all yours." "Cool, thanks." Simple exchange. But you notice the tone. Nope is friendly. Cool is casual gratitude. 3 lines, 0 fluff. This is the everyday rhythm of English, short, clipped, but full of context. You didn't need a full sentence to know she's polite, she's relaxed, and maybe she just wants a place to charge her phone. Here's something fun. Café-copyrights became hubs for social language in the Enlightenment era. In 17th century Vienna, people would gather in coffee houses to trade gossip, argue about politics, and share stories, often while hiding from the plague. So, in a way, this café-copyright chatter you're eavesdropping on is historical tradition. Coffee and conversations are basically the original podcast. A guy in the corner is on Zoom, whispering aggressively, "No, we're not pivoting again." The client hates pivoting. "We pivoted last month." Buzzwords. Pivot used to mean turning your body. Now it's business speak for changing strategies, usually in panic. Language evolves with stress. In fact, historians still debate whether World War II had a greater effect on English slang than Hollywood. Wartime gave us snafu, GI, and the phrase "above my pay grade." But TikTok might win in the end. You finish your coffee, and as you walk to the door, you hear a final gem from behind the bar: "Don't date anyone who orders decaf after 6 p.m.A. They don't take risks." You laugh quietly. That's not grammar, that's lifestyle advice. But somehow, it's also English listening practice. You didn't learn new vocabulary, you absorbed personality, cadence, and a whole culture's way of expressing itself through jokes and caffeine. And if you ever forget how rich English is in small places, just remember this: entire love stories, life lessons, and therapy sessions can happen over a single coffee. You're standing near the front of a tour group, trying your best to look interested while the guide fumbles with a laminated map and a microphone that keeps cutting out. The group is largia too largia, and the sun is doing its best impression of a slow roasting oven. Behind you, someone coughs loudly, and a child kicks gravel in slow motion rebellion. So this, building right here is, I think it's a courthouse, or maybe it was a bank. Anyway, cool windows, right? The guide grins nervously. And just like that, you're in one of the most underrated English learning experiences, listening to someone improvise under pressure. He's not reciting from a script, he's winging it, and that means you're getting real-time corrections, backtracking, filler phrases, and those glorious verbal stumbles. Actually, no. Sorry, this used to be the old city hall. Yeah, not a bank. Wow, off to a great start. You can almost hear the internal monologue. Act confident, they won't notice. But you do notice, yeah, and you're learning. Native speakers make mistakes. They self-correct. They soften their errors with humor. And phrases like "off to a great start" are steeped in irony. Here it's sarcasm used to mask embarrassment. In a classroom, you might not learn how to save face mid-sentence, but here, it's front row education. As you shuffle along behind the group, the guide picks up speed. So, the founder of the city, Colonel Henry Samiania, he built this in, like, the late 1800s, or was it early 1900s? Historians still argue over which date counts as the real founding, because there was, like, a small settlement here before. There it is, your required open scholarly debate, and it's deliciously vague. The kind of half-remembered history you overhear all the time. Even professional tour guides rely on tone and confidence more than exact dates. But historians still argue is code for "don't quote me on this." At the next stop, the guide points to a fountain. This was built in 1912. Legend has it, if you throw a coin and make a wish, you'll pass your next exam, or get a text back from your crush. No promises. You smile. This part feels more alive. The guide's tone lightens. He's telling a story now, not just giving facts. When he says legend has it, he is tapping into cultural storytelling, a great way to make dry facts sticky. And no promises? That's the English equivalent of shrugging in HD. Someone in the group asks a question. Didn't something happen here during the war? The guide squints into the sun. Maybe. Depends which war you mean. This answer is gold. First, maybe is a stall tactic. Second, depends is a conversational pivot. And third, a which war reveals something crucial. Context matters. In English, one word can mean a dozen things depending on tone, history, and audience. It's the kind of question where not knowing is half the charm. As you walk to the next site, two tourists behind you are whispering. He's kinda hot for a guy who doesn't know anything. Yeah, I love that lost puppy energy. Confident confusion. Confident confusion. What a phrase. That's a whole vibe in English. You've probably seen it in sitcoms, the lovable goof who's wrong but bold. And it works because the language lets people balance honesty with charm. You reach a statue. The guide reads from a plaque. Here we have Mayor Wendell Strutbone, who served 3 terms, one of which, I think, was cut short due to a squirrel-related incident. The group laughs. Was that true? Was it a joke? Does it matter? Humor often lives in the uncertainty. English is full of that blur between fact and fiction. Plus, if you Google politicians attacked by squirrels, you'll find at least 2 real cases. So it could be true. Here's your historical gem of the day. In ancient Rome, public guidessa called praeconessa would shout announcements in the forum and give tours of gladiator arenas. Some were respected, others were notorious for exaggerating everything. One even claimed to be descended from Hercules to boost ticket sales. So today's unsure but attractive tour guide is part of a proud tradition. Back at the group, the guide is wrapping up. And finally, if you're looking for food, there's a great taco place 2 blocks over. I mean, I haven't been, but Yelp says it's decent. Unless you hate cilantro, then, sorry, you're out of luck. You catch 2 great phrases here. I haven't been, but Yelp says is the modern version of I heard from a guy. It's outsourcing your opinion. And out of luck is an idiom that basically means sorry, deal with it. As people start drifting away, the guide says, thanks for putting up with my scatterbrain tour. You've been shockingly patient. Self-deprecation is a beautiful English tool. It lowers defenses, softens criticism, and builds trust. Scatterbrain tour is how he reframes a chaotic hour as something charming. And you know what? It kind of was. You didn't just practice listening to English, you listened to English as it unfolds, with errors, humor, real-time corrections, and improvisation. The kind that can't be scripted because life won't let it. And as you walk away from the tour group, someone asks you for directions. You pause, think, and then respond, I think it's 2 blocks that way. Or maybe 3, but I promise the windows are cool. Congratulations, you've just given your first unofficial tour. You didn't plan on walking into a domestic war zone, but here you are, standing awkwardly in a shared apartment kitchen while 2 roommates are going full Shakespeare over dirty dishes. This is the 3rd time this week. That's rich, coming from the guy who left pasta in the sink like it was a science experiment. Their voices rise and fall like a symphony of passive aggression. The English here is sharp, emotional, and fast-paced, and no time for niceties. You're not just hearing an argument, you're hearing intonation as punctuation. The stress lands on third. This Pasta emphasizing blame like bold fonts in an angry email. One of them gestures dramatically with a spoon, the other crosses their arms like they're posing for a courtroom drama. You always do this, every single time. Oh please, don't start acting like you're Mother Teresa of mop water. Boom. Sarcasm, hyperbole. The exaggerated Mother Teresa comparison is peak rhetorical drama. English is great at this. It stretches comparisons far beyond reality for comic or emotional effect. And when someone says don't start acting like you a broken bar, it usually means they're about to do the very thing they're accusing the other person of. You lean on the kitchen doorway, pretending to check your phone while secretly absorbing a masterclass in emotional vocabulary. Then comes the big move. You know what, I'll just do the dishes again, because apparently, I'm the only adult here. The phrase "you know what" is like a verbal gun cock. It's a sign that the speaker is fed up and ready to take control dramatically, and apparently adds a passive-aggressive edge. It's not just about doing dishes. It's about justice, pride, and psychological warfare via sponge. The other roommate, not to be outdone, fires back. If doing dishes gives you a moral high, knock yourself out. Did you catch that? Knock yourself out isn't literal, it's an idiom meaning go ahead, do it, I don't care. But it's also laced with dismissiveness. Not rude enough to start a fistfight, but just spicy enough to ruin dinner. Speaking of dinner, you spot a frozen pizza box half hanging out of the trash. An unopened can of beans lies tragically on the counter. You get the sense this conversation's been simmering for weeks. To cool the mood, one of them tries a joke. Honestly, I miss living with my mom. At least her passive aggression came with cookies. You smile. That's self-awareness, humor used to diffuse tension. In English, we use this technique all the time. Acknowledge the chaos with a joke, and suddenly you're relatable instead of just angry. Bonus points if baked goods are involved. You slip out of the kitchen and wander into the living room, where a third roommate, clearly the Switzerland of the house, sits reading with headphones. Are they still at it? Cool, cool. Let me know when the mop gets thrown. It's so dry you almost miss the sarcasm. But let me know when the mop gets thrown is their version of wake me when the war ends. It's observational humor, low energy, but sharp. You plop onto the couch, processing what you just heard. These arguments, while messy, are full of valuable English cues. Repetition for emphasis, every single time. Passive-aggressive phrases. I'll just do it again. Hyperbolic comparisons, Mother Teresa of mop water. Sarcastic idioms, knock yourself out. Here's your historical tidbit. In Victorian England, roommates, called lodgers or boarders, were common among working-class men in cities like London. Diaries from that era reveal passive-aggressive notes about unwashed teacups and mysterious meat left in shared pantries. Some historians still argue whether communal living helped spread language faster or just raised blood pressure. And now for the quirky bit. In 1970s America, a psychologist coined the term chore wars after observing how often couples argued over tasks like laundry and dishes. He believed the real issue wasn't cleanliness, it was control disguised as cooperation. Deep stuff for something involving leftover spaghetti. You think back to your own life, how many times you've said it's fine in a tone that meant the opposite. Welcome to Advanced English, where how you say something matters more than what you say. Your roommate's voices drift into the hallway again. Can we just make a chore chart like normal people? Sure, let's get a whiteboard and pretend we're a company. The sarcasm continues, now upgraded to corporate mockery. English is full of these, taking real-world systems, like office culture, and applying them to everyday dysfunction. It's both hilarious and strangely effective. And finally, silence. One roommate slams a cabinet, another storms into their room, and the third just sighs deeply like he's aging 5 years per argument. You survived, and more importantly, you learned. English in arguments is fast, emotional, and brutally honest. It's less about grammar and more about tone, metaphor, and social navigation. You can't learn this from textbooks. But if you ever want to understand someone deeply, stand in their kitchen during a dish dispute. The scent hits you first, a charred beef, sizzling onions, something spicy that clings to your clothes. You're standing in front of a food truck, Late afternoon, your stomach growling like a wild animal on a sugar crash. There's a line of people ahead of you, each rattling off rapid-fire orders to the guy inside, who responds without missing a beat. Double smash, no pickles, extra aioli, sub the bun with lettuce, and can I get that crispy, like, crispy, not just pretend crispy? This is English under pressure. You're not just hearing vocabulary, you're hearing survival speech. Orders are sharp, fast, rhythmic. One breath, one sentence, no hesitation. Behind the counter, the cook yells back, copy that. One protein style, extra crunch, no green nightmares. You grin. No green nightmares clearly means no pickles. It's part joke, part code, part coping mechanism. The English here is layered with slang, wordplay, and personalized shorthand, and it's delicious. A woman in front of you gets her food and turns to her friend, if this burger doesn't solve my entire life, I swear a broken bar. That's the kind of hyperbole that lives in everyday English. No one expects a burger to actually be a therapist, but it's fun to pretend. People exaggerate for comic relief, especially around food. It's how humans bond over grease and melted cheese. Your turn arrives. You step up and try to keep it simple. A broken bar, one cheeseburger, please. Regular everything. The cook nods but responds, you want that medium or rect? Brioche or basic? Fries now or later? Welcome to the decision storm. Rect probably means well done, basic might mean plain white bun. Fries later is a test of your self-control. You scramble mentally, trying to decode while staying cool. You answer like a pro, or at least you hope you do. Medium, brioche, fries now. He approves with a nod. Language milestone unlocked. While you wait, you glance at a handwritten sign taped to the truck, cash only. No Venmo. No excuses. No whining. We're old school. That sign talks to you, not just informs. No whining is a little preemptive strike against complaints. It's playful but firm, typical of American casual business English. Tone matters. This isn't just communication, it's branding through attitude. A couple nearby is sitting on a curb, eating like they haven't seen food since Tuesday. This aioli is, like, illegal in several countries, including this one. Sarcasm, humor, overstatement. Again, English users bend language to their will, even when eating. You won't see aioli equals illegal on a vocabulary test, but you know exactly what they mean. Here's something fun. The phrase tip, as in leaving money for service, might come from the 18th century British phrase to ensure promptitude, written as tip on bowls in coffee houses. Some historians believe it was a way to bribe the server before your order, not after. Others think that's just a convenient myth. Historians still argue whether it was a clever acronym or just another excuse to get paid twice. Back to the present, your food arrives in a crinkly,